All right, get a pen and paper ready because we're going to talk about establishing your timeline first. Sellers always ask, is it the right time to sell? Well, first and foremost, you have to think about, do you need to sell right now? That's number one. There are some situations where people do need to sell. And in the real estate world, we call that the 6Ds. And they are diamonds, diplomas, diapers, divorce, debt, and sometimes, unfortunately, death. Oftentimes in those situations, people need to sell when they need to sell. And your good agent will talk you through the best ways to get the most amount of money in the least amount of time if it's not like a peak time in the market for you. You may also have other factors like you're buying a new place and you don't have that place yet. So is it the right time to put your home on the market when you don't have your new place yet? You might be able to include some kind of contingency in your home sale that allows you to rent back your space if it does sell right away. And some buyers are really open to that if they really want the home. You just have to disclose that ahead of time. You can't like accept the offer and be like, surprise, I need to live there for 2 more months. Okay? So you've also probably heard that the fall market and the spring markets are the best times to sell. And those typically are the times where we see more buyers out there. But even during those times, things can change very rapidly week to week. For example, as I'm filming this, we had a kind of slow fall market. There were lots of world things going on, so it was a little bit slow. And as we got closer to the holiday, suddenly everything was trading and selling because buyers were realizing I might be able to get a slightly better deal because their agents are advising them that the sellers don't want homes sitting on the market during the holiday season and throughout the winter. So things were trading a little bit more quickly, like in that week. So things can change rapidly on a week-to-week basis. And that's why it's super important for you to stay in touch with your agent. Your agent will have to keep a pulse on the market before you list and during the entire time that you are listed. So that's another factor. You may also watch the national news to hear about how the real estate market is. Turn that news off right away. The reason why is real estate is hyper local. It is. And I'll give you an example. You might think that buying a home in Boston is the Boston market and it's the same in each neighborhood, but that could not be more false. Each neighborhood has its own micro market. And people are attracted to those different micro markets at different times for different reasons, depending on what's going on in their lives, sometimes what's going on in the world. For example, we're going to think back to COVID. It's not fun, but we're going to think back to it. People were working from home. They wanted decks. They wanted outdoor spaces. So they were drawn to neighborhoods and areas that had more space for offices, less crammed city spaces, outdoor decks or backyards. Those many markets were doing better at that time. So just remember, your home is located in a mini market, a micro market, and things can be very different in your neighborhood than even the neighborhood that's like 6 blocks over, okay? That might also impact your timeline. Another thing, perhaps you are the seller that says, I'm really not in a rush to sell. And we hear that all the time. That may be true, but I very rarely have ever met a seller or a buyer that says, we're not in a rush, that isn't suddenly in a rush at some point. And it's like fire drill. So the point at which you are in a rush might not be the best for your needs. So if the numbers work out, even though you're not in a rush, I'd encourage you to kind of make it the right time because it might help you get more for your home in a quicker period of time, okay? The overarching idea that impacts your home sale is supply and demand. And your agent will talk to you about the supply of properties and the demand from buyers. Generally, when there is less supply and more demand, it's a seller's market. And when there's more supply and less demand, it's a buyer's market. But I would say the activity, the anecdotal stories you hear about your micro market often outweighs the supply demand factor. So your real estate agent's going to be able to look up like historical data related to the supply or inventory in your area. They'll tell you about what they think the market predictions might be in the upcoming season to help you really figure out, is it the right time? So as a review, your personal needs, whether or not they're immediate or you have some time, what's happening in your micro market, and the overall supply and demand are the main factors that will impact whether or not it's the right time for you to sell. So go through all of those things with your agent. You can reach out to me if you'd like, and we'll get your house on the market at the just right time.